What's difficult about getting ahead in business is that the quarter or month that you choose to get a quarter ahead, you're doing essentially 2 quarters of work.
I didn't want to pigeonhole myself into people under $5 million, even though most people are under $5 million, because I feel like I can help people all the way up to $30 million in revenue, because that's what I ran. If I look at the metrics, 98% of companies are under $3 million in rev. So it's like 98% of my audience are those people.
You've spared no expense in making the 1% Club as special as it is. So it wasn't like you wanted to, hey, make a few posts and hope everyone joined. Like, you've made it really special. And on top of that, you're finding that, like, hey, it is really hard. And especially when you care and you have as much attention to detail.
And when we were preparing for this, it's like, man, if you let Q1 go wrong, your whole year almost kind of crumbles.
Welcome to the Premium Mindset, the weekly podcast where homegrown entrepreneurs and business owners, Evan Ritchie and Cameron Bodden, share the good, the bad, and the ugly of modern entrepreneurship and reveal what really happens behind the scenes of their personal and professional lives. As owners of 2 of America's fastest growing and most disruptive companies, Coconut Cleaning and Green Mango Pest Control, stay tuned for real stories, struggles, insight, and advice from real entrepreneurs in real time.
All right, what's going on? We are closing out. By the time we're recording this, we are in the last month of quarter 1. And we are going to do not only a look back at the first few months of quarter 1, but also some wins and some fails for the quarter, how we positioned ourselves for success in quarter 1, and what we're doing now to prepare ourselves for Q2. So
the big questions are, did you make your goals too aggressive for this year, let alone Q1? Are you blaming why you didn't hit those goals on the market, on a certain person, maybe an employee? Like, what excuses are you coming up with? Or are you on track for your Q1 goals?
Here's the thing. Are they excuses or are they reasons?
I was teaching this principle to my little boy, Banks,
Please.
And we talked to him about constraints. And he said, what are constraints? And I said, constraints are excuses. Period. Like, they're the reasons why you can't do it. So go figure out how to do it, and you eliminate the constraint. Yeah.
The word
choice.
Okay. So, okay.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say.
Finally, we're going to talk about something good today.
Listen, we did a podcast in Q4, and I think we filmed it like October or November, where we said, look, if you're not talking about starting Q1 strong now, you're already behind the 8 ball. Mm-hmm. So here's where I think we had some wins for Q1. So right now, by the time you're getting this, we're either at the tail end of Q1 or we're just starting Q2 of 2026. To recap a little bit, I shared a little bit with you guys on how September I took the Coconut leadership team to Sedona to prepare for Q4. What's difficult about getting ahead in business is that the quarter or month that you choose to get a quarter ahead, you're doing essentially 2 quarters of work, because you're doing the work that is required for marketing, sales conversion, strategic planning, and simultaneously doing that work to position yourself for the next quarter. So for us at Coconut, I can say that where we were ahead was, I was very proud of the leadership team and how we positioned ourselves, and we got clarity on where the business was going in 2 terms: growth and fulfillment. And a big realization in the end of quarter 3 of last year going into quarter 4 was, we have leads for, like, let's keep it simple, for 20 vans. Why do we only have 15 vans? And the big catalyst for all of our conversations,
we have enough leads for 20 vans. Why are we only operating with 15?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Right. And so this
5 are sitting every day.
Yes, and this was the big realization where I go to our fleet manager and he says, dude, it's going to cost like 35, 40 grand to fix those 5 that are down. I said, okay, well, hey, I appreciate you looking out. I'll talk to the CFO. I'll talk to Cameron. We'll see, where we can allocate some finances. But where we made a breakthrough was we had enough leads to fulfill with 20 vans. So here's what that means is that the volume of leads that we were converting into sales was right on par that we could stay busy every 72 hours with full bandwidth. Where we were missing the mark.
Because we told the team we had 15 vans. So we said, fill up 15 vans, essentially.
No. Yes and no. Where it was, we ramped up for quarter four. Where I dropped the ball big time.
Sorry, when you say ramp up, what is that? Like, obviously, I know what ramp up means.
Q4
Is that in leads?
our, like,
is that in
busy
technicians?
quarter.
Is that new vehicles? Just so for people listening, what does ramping up mean for Coconut?
Yeah.
When you say that.
No, that's a great question. So ramping up for us at Coconut, especially Q3 into Q4 is we see about a 30% uptick in volume demand. And so we wanted to roll with that. We pre-shot marketing material for October, fall, Thanksgiving, and the holidays. And so we had the marketing promotion and the budget for 20 vans because 20 vans are on our budget sheet. So where I'm kind of turning myself in here is that it wasn't until late October, November, where I'm like, man, what are these 5 vans like doing down? And that's where our fleet manager said, hey, like it's going to be like 30, 40 grand to fix it. So here's where I'm piecing the two together, where I was very proud in how we positioned ourselves for quarter one, but we dropped the ball. And it was, we were saving on $30,000 to $40,000 in vehicle expenses, but because we didn't have the 5 vans on the road, we were pushing out like 2 weeks for our services, and we were losing 10% more jobs because we were pushing them out so far. So at the end of the day, we were fulfilling the leads and sales conversion for 20 vans with 15 because so many people fell off that by day of service, it was just enough for the 15 vans that we had. And so we found out that we were losing $60,000 a month by losing that additional 10% in cancellations because we were pushing service out more than a week. So we all got in a room October and we said, look.
Did you know we were pushing out 2-3 weeks?
No. And that's just another.
Like how, man, out of everything
I love it. Let's show how we, how our partnership has worked, where it's like we have these consistent lessons where it's like, I'm not going to get behind on that again. The miscommunication was between our COO and fleet manager and me was that the COO and fleet manager were under the impression that I wasn't giving the green light on fixing the vehicles because it required $40,000 in fixing. So the COO wasn't really bugging me. He was just trying to keep his head above water and fulfilling jobs as fast as possible with the under the impression that I didn't want to fix the van so that we could get more techs and fulfill faster. When all that came to light, I took the brunt of ownership where I'm just like, that's on me. Why would I want that? Why, if I would have known that we were losing 10% beyond what we usually do because we're pushing out so far, why for us 10% is about 120 jobs, $60,000. Why would I want that? And they were like, I don't know. Like, we just thought like you weren't wanting to fix them because of capital allocation. I took the brunt of that ownership, and here's where I kind of have shared a little bit with you, and I'll keep it surface level in terms of where my newer frustrations have come from. I took the brunt of that ownership, and I said, okay, never again are we ever going to let a vehicle being down with some expenses be the reason why we don't, sorry, it's just my allergies. Never again are we going to allow a vehicle being down to be a reason why we aren't able to fulfill the demand created from our marketing team. So November, we made a whole plan. We said to get 20 vans running every day, we need 24 technicians. I laid out the math. It was right on par with where we are at leads and where we were at sales conversion. So I'm like, you guys got it? Yeah, we got it. We got the capital, and our fleet manager started to fix all the vehicles. I'm seeing technicians getting hired. Some technicians are leaving. Everyone's making posts on social media. Everyone's trying to get more technicians. We meet 2 weeks prior to the new year, and I say, okay, where are we at? Oh, we're at 19 technicians, and 17 vehicles. We're still trying to fix them fast enough, and we're trying to make sure that we keep the technicians. January, I still am blown away that January and February are gone. But January was, okay, put my head down. We had a new franchisee start. So I spent 3 weeks with them, training them, being with them. Still held my one-on-ones.
If you're listening to this podcast right now and you're loving what we're talking about, but you're still confused of where to go and how to accomplish it, that's exactly why we started the 1% Club. We go through playbooks that teach you exactly how to do it and when to do it. And so I want you to click the link below that talks about the 1% Club and want you to join with us.
I was not getting dialogue back that we weren't fixing vehicles as fast enough, and we weren't keeping enough technicians to get to the vans that we wanted. So we're going to get into the goal setting aspect, the revenue aspect, but I'm getting weekly reports back from our CFO that like, that was our best week. Hey, that week of death that we get right when everyone goes back to school, it was one of our best weeks that we've ever had, like in all like the last trailing 52 weeks. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, we're getting there. We're performing above our budget. So the budget we set was 15% above the previous quarter in the previous 12 months ago, January was set at. So we were hitting above that budget, below the goal. And the goal was set at 30% higher, 30% growth. And so there's a part of me where it's like, okay, I'm grateful that we're at 19%, but we're still 11% shy. Why are we shy? Well, like, hey, I'm talking with our fleet manager. Vehicles just aren't getting fixed as fast as possible, or we're fixing them, and then a van that we didn't expect to go down that was in an accident where it was totaled, where it wasn't the technician's fault, it went down. Okay. We complete January, and I found out that like we're still 7-8 technicians shy and like four vans shy. And if we had those
still pushing out 2 weeks or
pushing out, like it was at that time like 7 to 9 days. So we went from like 14 days down to 7 to 9, but we were still losing 7% more than what we anticipated. We generally expect 8 to 9% to cancel and reschedule. We were finishing around 15, 16%. If you take away that 7 to 8%, we would have hit 100% on target. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I know that a lot of you out there, and you know, you and I have talked about this often. It's like, how far does ownership go in terms of taking ownership? And here's what I internalized back to the team on the first week of February. As I said, ownership is me taking 100% ownership of the results. It's also taking 100% ownership of who stays here as well. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs miss out on what ownership looks like. Is if you are going to take ownership of the results, you also have to take ownership in where your current leadership team feels they are in standing with you in the company. And ownership also is getting rid of people who aren't performing up to par. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of like a longer story illustrating that, look, we were very strategic and intentional going into Q1. It's so weird to have the best months that we ever had, but to be shy of what the goal should have been when we knew what our budgets were and what the targets were for technicians. So every technician we didn't hire and every van that we didn't get on the road was a loss of $30,000.
Yeah. So then you go to, our mechanics and say, hey, how much is it to hire another guy that could have gotten us the 4? How much more in ads could we have spent? Like all the things.
Yep. I met with
how does Coconut measure, like how do you track how far, like in pest control it's kind of easy because we can see when people are due, but how do you know, like where's the metric that shows like that we're booking 3 days out, 5 days out?
We take it off of the measurement of throughput, where we say how many leads do we get and how many do we normally book within 72 hours, and it's normally like 80%. Mm-hmm. And so what was happening in those months that we were pushing people out is that we were at like 55% of our leads were getting booked within 48 to 72 hours. I'm like, why that 30% drop? Oh, we can't service them for 12, 13, 14 days, even if we wanted to.
Yeah.
And so that's generally, we use the benchmark of how many we historically book within 48 to 72 hours. And then we use that as the benchmark to measure any difference or variance.
So what's cool, and although that's kind of like, look, you still had 19% growth, which is phenomenal. I think back where we came from, even 3 years ago of that, like we weren't making these course corrections until like June. For year. We would look back on the last year and be like, oh crap, we messed up for 12 months. Now you're doing it on a monthly basis. And so like, good job. You know, like I know you don't need that, but like that's cool to be like, okay, we're correcting in January, then we readjust, and now we're looking in February, and we're March 3rd, 4th right now, whatever day it is. You have new goals. You've had the fierce conversations, and so you can have a great Q2. Yeah. And when we were preparing for this, it's like, man, if you let Q1 go wrong, your whole year almost kind of crumbles because no one believes in the goal. No one believes that it's possible. No one's pushing for it. Whatever incentive you gave, whatever, grand idea you had to work. Like if you don't hit it Q1 and Q2, people aren't just going to be like, oh, let's hit it in Q3 and Q4. It's not going to happen. Right. So I know you're really hard on yourself, and again, you don't need this, but it's like it's cool to watch from an outsider's perspective as you're like in the grind of this, adjusting in real time. And I think that's what, when we're talking about this segment of like, the Q1 reset, can you be truly, one, are you tracking to know like, okay, what's working, what's not, which is what we preach always on Premium Mindset and the 1% Club is like, hey, we help you identify what's most important within your organization. Like that's number one. Yep. And then, you go and audit that information to make sure it's done. And we've even learned, like even after 9 years, there's still ways of people to take advantage of the system. And so like, just always, like if you're watching this, just always be battle testing your systems, your processes, how they're auditing it. And then, how your auditor's auditing things, like continue to go look on that. Right. And then you're adjusting and you're having those fierce conversations. You kind of alluded to it. We don't need to get into that, but it sounds like you've had some really hard conversations with those people. And that's hard to do as a business owner. But look, you have to do those if you want this company to feed you. Yep. Like there's a reason why less than 1% of companies make over 10 million, and that's because it's really hard. Yep. And when I look at just all the different things that we've done and that I've done in life, it's like, man, like sometimes I'm glad like the 1% Club, it's a lot harder to grow the membership than I originally thought. And while I'm here, I'm kind of happy because then that means not everyone can go do this, and it makes it more special, and it's more gratifying, like all the things, we can talk about the book or not, but it's like, I thought this book would be a walk in the park to write. That's kind of how it was portrayed to me. Yeah. And it wasn't. And because it wasn't, and I almost gave up, like it kind of like I'll just kind of keep kicking it down the road, but we just kept going. Luckily I have a great team that kept holding me accountable and kept pushing me. We were able to get it across the finish line. Yep. And there's some insane stats around people that actually finish their book. Like everyone wants to write it. A lot of people start it. Very few finish it. Yep. And so it again, like if you're in the pain, I'm saying like if it's painful, I kind of be grateful because that just means like not everyone can go do it and knock it off, right? Yeah. So
I think that's a huge point that I think if you're choosing to go a more premium path beyond failing, and if you're making bigger goals and you're like, I'm so grateful that I set the goal for 30% growth 9 years in. Like how many companies are saying, I want 30% growth 9 years in? And we had 19% growth. And then in February, we had around 20% growth from the previous February from the last year. But you mentioned that, and I do want to talk about the book. But first, I just had an experience with franchisees because Cameron and I are still building a national company. And I was able to illustrate to them how important it is to stay on top of their leads, that before they pass it off to a family member, that they need to have the SOPs that we already have. So It's clear, the stats are out there. Franchising is an accelerator for you to not only start a business, but to be able to grow at a pace that just starting a regular company, you just can't do. So if you're interested in franchising with us at Coconut Cleaning and you want to jump into a system that's ready to go, click the link below and we'd love to talk to you soon. I think it's important to highlight that even you saying, hey, it's harder to get members when this is what the plan was. And it wasn't that like, oh, I thought it'd be a walk in the park, but you've spared no expense in making the 1% Club as special as it is. So it wasn't like you wanted to, hey, make a few posts and hope everyone joined. Like you've made it really special. And on top of that, you're finding that like, hey, it is really hard. And especially when you care and you have as much attention to detail. So in the spirit of like, regardless of what you do in your business, and regardless how you measure improvement, which I think your book is going to hit on pretty hard in the 9 Value Vortex, but I think it's also important that at every level of scaling your business, whether you're in the home service business or whether you're coaching, whatever it is, you're going to experience obstacles. So could you share like one or two metrics that you said you wanted to hit for the
You really wanted me to say this, didn't you?
For the 1% Club?
Did I say 1,000 members by the end of Q1 or the 2026?
No, by the end of Q1. That's where I was like, oh dang.
When did I say that? Last year?
It was like September. It was
Yeah.
like September or October. And so
Mother
just a
trucker,
little
man.
context now that he brought it up so I could share it, is that he was on the 1% call with, all 100 members. And man, he's like, guys, like I really want this to be special. You've all benefited from it. And it's why I'm working to make it 1,000 members by, end of Q1. And I kind of was like, oh, wow. And it's on a video camera, so you could see my face. You're like, don't make that face, Evan. But I think it is important to highlight that even at your level of success, like how do you make a pivot from a goal that you originally made that was a big jump, you didn't hit it. So like in your mind with your 15, 16 years of business, like what are some things that you're doing to get strategic for positioning your 1% Club for the growth that you want in Q2?
Yeah. Well, it's transparency of saying like, hey, are we actually on pace?
You have to have a metric to even do that.
Yep. And so are you actually on pace and being honest with yourself? I think a lot of people lie to themselves. And again, it's how we started this. Did the economy change? Did this change? Did that? Like, what are the excuses? What are the constraints? And just being like, okay, let's go focus on them. So one of the things that I underestimated when I set that ambitious goal of 1,000 members, and I still want to hit that, is that I had to get my house in order, if you will. And so what does that look like? It's the landing pages, it's the right tone and message. And even today, I'm like, man, I think one of the things that's missing from the 1% Club is just a clear path of like, what if I join this community, this group if I join this with Cameron, like, what do I expect to get out of it? Right now, it's like, hey, you get a bunch of cool business principles in the community, and we do an event, and we do events, right? That's kind of how, if an outsider went onto my Instagram, my Facebook, or like the website, I feel like that's the message. I don't love that. That's not what would make me sign up as the business owner. I want to be very strategic and speak to the constraints that most, and this is where I just being full transparent here is like, I didn't want to pigeonhole myself into people under $5 million, even though most people are under 5 million, because I feel like I can help people all the way up to $30 million in revenue, because that's what I ran, right? But if I look at the metrics, 98% of companies are under $3 million in rev. So it's like 98% of my audience are those people. I need to go speak to those people. Just simply like getting ads together and like starting to do paid ads to get the word out there. We weren't doing any of that, and I didn't have that in order. I didn't have full-time people. I had a bunch of part-time people, which was a mistake. I thought I could kind of piece it together of like, hey, can you work on this for a couple hours? Can you do this? Could you do that? Because I thought like this would be so easy. Like I honestly thought that. And because of that, I'm like, maybe this isn't right for me because it's so easy. But now that I've gotten into it, I'm like, dude, this is hard. Like I sat through an hour meeting today, and all the detail that goes into just throwing an event. I'm doing an event in my house on Friday. And like, it's taken the team 20 plus hours to throw a dinner. And I'm just like I would, me, I'm like, we got the food trucks, we got this, let's go, but like and it'll go so perfect and so smoothly. It hits my mark of like premium. And that's what I asked for. But the point is that I've identified that I need full-time people. So Q1 was establishing, and I still don't have a full-time team, but it's like I have order now. We're not like perfect, but like I have a full-time person at the realm. My CMO, Megan, she's there. She's hired people underneath her, social media people. My assistant, Shannon's awesome. Like, so we were starting to collaborate this team that's working on it full time, because it does take full time. It does take thoughtful action of ads. It does take, the right, hey, I mean, we were talking about events today, top funnel events versus like member experiences. Well, there's a lot of brainstorming that way. And so it's been fun to kind of have a reality check that, hey, like this is going to be harder, but I'm saying it because I've thought about this, like, oh, this is going to be worth it so much more. And it's like, why, that's why I value this book. And so when we are at 1,000 members, it's, hey, like this is going to be special because we got there, and not everyone can just go out and get 1,000 members. So with that said, one of the things that we've also noticed is like, hey, what if we don't get to 1,000? How do we, and maybe it isn't all about getting to 1,000, but maybe it's serving, even if we cap out at 250, 500 or 100 members, which is what, like pretty much where we're at today, is like, how do we better serve them? And what does better serving them mean? It means giving them additional services, such as tell me where to chip. And so before I probably told you the goal of 1,000 members, I never thought I would do an in-person event, because it's just, I don't know. I just didn't really want to, right? But then as I saw, like, wow, these guys need more. They need more. We came up with Tell Me Where to Chip. And we put together this event, and we had, how much was it, 30 people? Yeah. 30 people there. And it was it was like the most amazing event for me and what I wanted. And I think a lot of people got a lot out of it. Well, right before we did, we're like, hey, we can do 4 of these events a year. Now we're already scaled back and say, no, let's do 2, because where's our greatest opportunity? And so that's the next thing when I think about, planning for Q1 and Q2 is like, hey, you're analyzing, what did we work on? Where did we fall short? You're being honest with yourself. And then you're going and you're saying, where did I spend time that didn't move the needle? And as much as Tell Me Where to Chip move the needle, it's not my greatest opportunity. And so I've pulled back on that, because I'm going to roll up roofers right now. Like, we're bringing roofers together. We're going to help them, be worth a lot more, because we're going to help them with, the accounting side, the marketing side, the strategic side. We're going to help them go to market, and we're going to help them like create organization, the SOPs, all the things that we teach. And it's a win-win for everyone. That's our greatest opportunity. So how do we serve people? We release better, like roadmap for them. And even today it's like, man, do I go offer this package outside that's $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 for these people to buy, where it's an in-person consultant, but like drive the ticket up just like you would with like upsells in your business. Okay, if our goal is 4 million in rev in this club as a top funnel to bring deals for us to not only help people, because that's why it all started, right? It's like, hey, I want to be able to help people. So we drive in there, but also feed people 2 roll-ups, because everyone's wanting to exit in home services and they need a guidance of how to get there. So that's where we're at today with the 1% Club, is we're analyzing, hey, what went wrong? Where's our best allocation of time? Where can we focus? And then, we've met with our team today, and I loved Megan was like, hey, we need to meet together like for a full day, because these, couple hour meetings together a week, just like, it's not cutting it right now. Like, we need to meet together. So, we're adjusting where we're at with our goals. We're adjusting what's worked, what didn't. We're being honest with ourselves. We are analyzing our team, who's the right people. We're being real with the numbers, and we're having those fierce conversations as well.
I love it. So,
one last thing. Yeah. And we're saying, hey, my social has been the main growth engine right now, and our goal is 55 new members a month. We're averaging 10 to 15. And so what we're realizing is like, hey, we can count on 10 to 15 through referrals, through Cameron Social, through that platform. But if we want to go meet the other 35 to 40 that we need to get, we need to start doing paid ads. We need to start, and we've looked at 3 to 4 different other silos as well. And so we're starting those in the next 2 weeks as well, which will be fun, which we haven't done yet, because we wanted to get everything in order.
I love it. And what we were talking about prior to the podcast and sharing with you guys. And here's what I hope you're hearing from hearing Cameron and I talk, is that if I say, we had 19% growth in January versus the previous year, January, and 20% growth from the previous year, February. It's because of everything that we've shared with you in every segmented episode of different topics that we've chosen to talk about. When it comes to quarterly planning, I hope what you're hearing when you hear Cameron, reshare, hey, maybe what happens if we don't hit 1,000 members, or what do we really want? Why was it 1,000? And at the end of the day, when you make a pivot and you put your avatar, your customer, at the forefront of receiving a tremendous amount of value, it's going to make it that much easier to fill your pipeline from referrals. However, it requires you to be extremely detailed in making sure that your customer is having a great experience. And to do that, you have to get very narrowed in and intentional about a customer journey. So here's my big piece of advice for you in regard to quarterly planning, is that you can create the revenue marks, you could create the KPIs, you can have the seasonality of the quarter and say, oh, it's Mother's Day coming up in the next quarter, so let's do a great promotion for that. At the forefront of everything that you do has to be the user experience, has to be the customer experience. And so when Cameron and I plan for Coconut and we're talking about growth, it is still always with the customer in mind for what they're going to experience. And so if you do not have a whiteboard or some paper that says from initial marketing efforts to the first interaction with the phone call center, to the text reminders that go to them prior to the service, to the quality call after, the review asking after, you're missing out. And no amount of revenue setting, goal setting is ever going to serve you long term if you don't keep the customer experience at the forefront of what your goals are. And so my quick tip for doing that is that you have to find the greatest points of success in your company where you were profiting the most, had the most growth, and you have to ask yourself, what were you doing at that time? Why in 2023 did we get 700 referrals? In 2024 and 2025, we got 700 combined. Oh, 2023, we were doing those little, box of cookies to the customer that had the referral code. And you have to go back to when your company was performing at its highest growth point and profit point and try to duplicate that process over and over. And all I heard you say when you talked about not even like the pivots, but also kind of the pivots, is that the more you get into these roofing roll-ups, the better you're going to understand like what they're going through right now on top of Coconut, and the more serving you're going to be able to be towards your demographic of 1% club members. And so when Cameron is planning out these 1% events, it's you guys at the head of it, of what's your experience going to be? Who should you bring? What does Cameron and the team want you guys taking away in the form of like a gift? And how do they hope that you're, getting better from the event? And what I look forward to, especially with the event coming up for the 1% members, because it is exclusive to the 1% members, this one in 3 weeks.
March 24th, yeah.
So March 24th, you have this exclusive event. I won't share the amount, but I was very shocked to hear how much it's costing. And you do this so that they have the best experience, because it doesn't even sound like you're asking for anything in return beyond them just being in the 1%.
Yeah, I mean, our hope is that they'll invite. So we always try and do a competition, and the idea is that they can bring a non-member as their partner and expose them to the 1% club. But yeah, it's our way of, like, a big part of this is community and getting in the rooms. And so we want to have an excuse to bring everyone together. So it's kind of two parts.
Love it. So at any quarterly meeting, keep your customer and your main targeted customer as the priority of the conversation. So if you're talking about revenue and you're talking about job average, look at the job average of the customer that you want to see more often, and then say, what do I need to do to get that customer back into my pipeline more? Or what do I need to do to make sure that I know how their experience was? Because I can't tell you how many times that I call customers that didn't leave a review, but they spent $600, $700, $800, And they're like, yeah, it was good. I'm like, okay. So you spend a lot of money. I wanted to call you because there's just certain price ranges where I choose to call customers. And on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate? Oh, 7. I'm like, okay. Tell me about a time you experienced a 10 with a customer. So when you plan, make sure the customer's at the forefront. Make your revenue targets geared towards facilitating to that customer more often, and then break those goals down into monthly, weekly, and daily goals. And as you make turnkey decisions based on the results that you're getting day after day after day, and as you hold, I'm telling you guys right now, like I'd love to share more details. I just can't about some things that I discovered inside my own organization, but I promise you that taking ownership of your organization has as much to do with you saying, hey, this is on me, but it also has as much to do with how long you keep people around that aren't performing. And if they're not high results producing, high performance contributing, high culture contributing people, cut bait. That's what I'm doing. That's my theme going into Q2. If you're not high performance contributing, high culture contributing, this isn't a place for you. So that's at the forefront of my decision-making process and my framework for this quarterly meeting that we're going to have in 2 weeks with our CFO and the team. And as you can see, what Cameron's doing with the 1% members is he's making sure that their entire experience is about deepening their sense of community with other entrepreneurs, as well as pouring more back into them, obviously in hopes for growing the thing, but you're not doing that solely as the reason for making sure that everyone has a great experience in 3 weeks, which is what is key to entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I love it, man. I mean, yeah, just last thing I would say in closing is like it goes back to planning. It's the weekly planning, it's the yearly planning, it's the quarterly planning. Know where you want to go and then just reverse engineer it. And sometimes you might fall short, but you'll get further ahead as opposed to just kind of going through the motions.
Yeah.